I wanted to touch on this real quick. It's kind of similar to what I brought out a few weeks ago, a couple months ago, on the salmonella outbreak that was going around. It's similar, and just like that, it'll probably come to nothing, but I still want people to be educated on this. The bird flu. U.S. tests show pasteurized milk is safe. All right. When the article went up a few, I guess it was a couple hours ago, they were still doing tests. They figured out that the tests show that the pasteurized milk is safe. And everything that you buy in a store is supposed to be pasteurized. So understand that. But I'll go ahead and get into this article and see why was that even a question, right? Why was it even a question that the milk may not be safe, right? So this is from today. Additional tests of milk showed that pasteurization killed the bird flu virus, federal health officials said on Friday, as Colorado became the 9th U.S. state to report an infected dairy herd. You see that right there? So there was a bird flu outbreak going amongst the cattle all across America. Federal lawmakers urged the Biden administration to further contain the virus's spread, as tests showed 1 in 5 U.S. commercial milk samples contained remnants of the virus, suggesting the outbreak is more widespread than previously thought, right? So they were testing all the milk, and they said 1 in 5 of all the milk that they tested showed that there was a remnant of the bird flu virus still in the milk. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration late on Friday said preliminary results from gold standard PCR testing showed pasteurization killed the virus in milk and baby formula. It did not say how many milk products it had tested, but added that its plans to do more testing on 297 products from 38 states. Right, so they get the same. It's the same milk that goes into, the carton that you buy, the jug that you buy, and the baby formula. It's the same milk. All right, and yeah, we'll get into that a little later once we get past the article. But the reason why one contamination can turn into the whole country getting contaminated is because of factory farming and how they just stack all these animals on top of each other. And so it's easy for diseases to spread. And then you may, from that one farm, get, products to go all across the country. When that's not how it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be each family or each, I'll put it like this, each town, each city has a few families at least that have their own ranches, have their own farms, that have all the cattle and maybe goats and sheep that you would need to supply that town with everything that they need. Like, it's supposed to be more localized than it is here in America, where, a couple families across the whole country own everything. Like, that's not how it's supposed to be. Like, that's clearly wicked, but that's how they make the most money. At least those few individuals. That's how those few individuals make the most money, so that's how they got it right now. And that's how you can end up with, contaminations all across the country. All right. One person, a Texas farm worker, has been confirmed to have bird flu and suffer conjunctivitis in the current outbreak following exposure to dairy cows. You see that right there? So as long as you're not around these cows that have been infected, you're probably not going to get sick. Both the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and the World Health Organization said on Friday the current overall public health risk is low, but it's higher for those with exposure to infected animals. You see that right there. So they said the overall public health risk is low. It's not a zero though. So understand that it's not at zero. It's low though. So there's no reason to freak out. If you are concerned, you may just want to skip buying milk for the next couple weeks if that's what. If you're really concerned about this. I wouldn't be concerned with it. I just bought some milk earlier today. All right. And if you want to buy the milk, but if you need to buy the milk and you're still a little worried, you can just boil the milk. Pasteurization is supposed to kill all the viruses. Even if they didn't get it on the first go round, you can, boil the milk yourself, and that should kill any lingering viruses. It says the U.S. Department of Agriculture confirmed milking cows in Colorado tested positive following earlier infections in Texas, Kansas, Michigan, Ohio, Idaho, New Mexico, North Carolina, and South Dakota. So yeah, this is all over the country, by the way, because they take a few farms and then they distribute the products from those farms. When I say farm, I don't mean like mom and pop farm. I mean massive factory farming, and then they distribute those products all the way across the country. Congress members pushed for a stronger response, added pressure on federal agriculture and health authorities, still seeking to confirm how the H5N1 virus is spreading and its potential risk to people 1 month after the first detection in a Texas dairy herd, right? So this has been going on for a month. All right. An analysis of U.S. Department of Agriculture data by a University of Arizona scientist offers new evidence that the first known H5N1 outbreak in dairy cattle is more far-reaching than the 34 herds in 9 states that have officially tested positive, right? So there's speculation that it could be more than what they're telling. All right. Containing this before it spreads among humans is critical. Given lessons learned from COVID, this federal response is insufficient. Republican U.S. Senator Mitt Romney said in a post on Twitter. Some lawmakers, including Romney, have made a bipartisan push to reauthorize legislation known as the Pandemic and All Hazards Preparedness Act that lapsed last year and is aiming at bolstering the nation's response to pandemics and other public health threats, right? So everybody's on edge since the pandemic happened. They don't want another pandemic, so everybody's on edge about this. The recent spread of bird flu and the detection of H5N1 genetic materials in milk have increased some calls for action, right? So it may still be in some milk. It's probably not gonna hurt anybody though. So I don't necessarily want to get you in an uproar about this, but it is something to look into. All right, if you're concerned about something like this, if you're a very sickly person, maybe just don't buy milk for the next few weeks. The virus in the human case is significantly different from the bird flu virus samples taken from infected cattle that were made public by government officials last weekend, said Dr. Michael Worobe, an evolutionary biologist from the University of Arizona. I apologize for butchering that name, which I'm sure I did. The difference between the genetic sequences of the workers' virus and the 239 other samples provided indicate that this was a very long-standing, widespread epidemic, he told Reuters. The Texas Animal Health Commission said it did not receive the location of the worker's farm or obtain samples of that herd to test because of the person's confidentiality. So we don't know where that one person that got sick, we don't know where that person was because they wanted to retain anonymity, all right? More than likely in one of these states, though. Let me just go ahead and read this and I'll point out these states. I think the sequences out there probably aren't representative of everything that's circulating, said Dr. Richard Webby, a virologist at St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital in Memphis. So that virologist thinks that, they're downplaying it. They're not giving us all the information as to what is going on here. A CDC spokesperson said in an email, there are always some subtle changes in genetic sequences when flu viruses move from host to host, but said data points to the virus emerging from birds to infect cows and then transmission to the human. That does make the most sense. But yeah, it's all over the U.S. Again, it's because of the factory farming, all right? And if you don't know about factory farming, it's something to look into, where your food comes from. And this is all I wanted to point out on this, how this prophecy is being fulfilled here in Ezekiel 4. This is all I want to touch on concerning this. In Ezekiel 4 and verse 13. And the Lord said, even thus shall the children of Israel eat their defiled bread among the Gentiles, whither I will drive them. So the Lord has driven his people, the Israelites, the 12 tribes of Israel, into all nations, right? And we have been forced to eat the defiled food of these lands that we live in. And the food is defiled. Make no mistake about that. This is one example of how the food is defiled. All right? They stack these cows on top of each other. And then if one gets a disease, all the cattle are going to end up getting the disease because they are stacked upon top of each other, living in terrible conditions for the animals. And it just creates an environment where they get sick easier. All right. So yeah, there's bird flu in some of the milk. Possibly, it's probably like that salmonella outbreak that I touched on not too long ago, a few months ago, where it's a couple minor cases of somebody getting sick, not anything that's going to turn into like a COVID type thing. At least that's what it appears to be. Like, it's not going to be that big of a deal. All right. So, but I do want you to stay informed. That's why I brought it out. And again, more so about how the food here is defiled. All right, so that prophecy's got to come to pass. Things like this have to happen for people to understand the prophecies are coming to pass. All right, the food here is defiled. What can we do about that? Well, you can try to eat clean foods, like what the scriptures say. You could go a full Daniel diet, which is basically being vegan. You can go a full Daniel diet, or you can. I know a lot of people don't have the means to like raise their own agriculture, raise their own livestock, and grow their own food because a lot of us don't have land. But eventually that should be a goal down the line. All right, is to get some land and raise your own food, raise your own agriculture, raise your own cattle, your own livestock, your own farm. That like I said, that's more down the line, if possible, because a lot of people can't even do that. A lot of people don't have the means to do that, and that's understandable. But what you can do is make sure that, at the very least, you could just buy clean foods, right? And milk is clean. I'm not saying milk is unclean, but in this case, understand it's a possibility that it could make you sick, all right? So, but like I said, I bought milk just a while ago, so I'm not gonna say, hey, you need to stop buying milk. No, that's not what I'm saying. All right, just understand. I want people to be informed. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next topic. This article says China to host Hamas, Fatah for Palestinian unity talks. All right, so these are two different factions of the Palestinians, the Hamas, who was really ruling over Gaza, and that's why the state of Israel is trying to destroy all of Gaza, because that's where Hamas is, and Fatah, which is in the West Bank, and we're about to read about that. So, but China's trying to bring them together. This is from today. China will host Palestinian unity talks between Islamist militant group Hamas and its rivals Fatah. The two groups and a Beijing-based diplomat said on Friday a notable Chinese foray into Palestinian diplomacy amid the war in the Gaza Strip. Right, so China's trying to get involved in the Middle East politics. Hamas, which controls Gaza, is the group whose fighters stormed into Israeli towns on October 7, killing 1,200 people and capturing 253 hostages. Israel has sworn to annihilate Hamas in an onslaught that has killed more than 34,000 Palestinians. It's probably closer to 35,000 at this point. All right. And a lot of those, I believe the number was like 40% of those 34,000 are children. All right. Little less than half are innocent children who have done nothing against the state of Israel. Fatah is the movement of Mahmoud Abbas, president of the Western-backed Palestinian Authority, which exercises limited self-rule in the Israeli-occupied West Bank. Right, so this is Western-backed, meaning that they're basically run by the state of Israel. All right, that's the representative of Western governments right there in the Middle East is the state of Israel. That's why it was placed there in the first place. That's why it was established in the first place, to be an ally to particularly the U.S. and Britain that they could trust over there in the Middle East, because they don't trust any of the other states over there. All right. The two rival Palestinian factions have failed to heal their political disputes since Hamas fighters expelled Fatah from Gaza in a short war in 2007. Washington is wary of moves to reconcile the two groups, as it supports the PA, but has abandoned Hamas as terrorists. Right, so they're telling Fatah, or at least the U.S. tells Fatah, hey, don't deal with Hamas. They're terrorists. You can't trust them. Right. Yet it's not like the state of Israel and the U.S. have the West Bank's best interests in mind. It's not like they have the Palestinians' best interest in mind. So China stepped in and said, hey, let's get these two groups back together, because China wants an ally over there in the Middle East, specifically over there right up next to the state of Israel. All right. But China knows not the state of Israel specifically, because that's America's ally. They picking sides here. All right. You can see the sides starting to form in the war that's coming. All right. A Fatah official told Reuters a delegation led by the group's senior official Azam al-Ahmed had left for China. A Hamas official said the factions team for the talks, led by senior Hamas official Musa Abu Marzouk, would be flying there later on Friday. All right. So they're hearing it from all sides except for China, essentially. We support strengthening the authority of the Palestinian National Authority and support all Palestinian factions in achieving reconciliation and increasing solidarity through dialogue and consultation. So solidarity usually means solidarity against something else. All right. So what is this solidarity against? Against the state of Israel and against the West. All right. Said Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Wang Wenbin at a regular briefing on Friday without confirming the meeting, right? So China's kind of tiptoeing around it. They don't want to tell people outright this is what we're doing because they know that'll stir the pot. All right. The visit will be the first time a Hamas delegation is publicly known to have gone to China since the start of the war in Gaza. A Chinese diplomat, Wang Kejian, probably butchering these Chinese names as well, met Hamas chief Ismail Haniyeh in Qatar last month, according to the Chinese Foreign Ministry. Right, so China been meeting with Hamas. This is just the first time they're trying to get Fatah and Hamas together. The Beijing-based diplomat who had been briefed on the matter said the talks aim to support efforts to reconcile the two Palestinian rival groups. China has lately demonstrated growing diplomatic influence in the Middle East. China has recently demonstrated influence all over the world, if we're being honest here. They have their hand in stealing the resources of Africa. Obviously, they have influence on South Asia because that's their neighbors. And now they're trying to get a hand in the Middle East. All right. They're already allies with Brazil and South America through the BRICS program. And that's basically the sides that's forming. BRICS is trying to recruit everybody that they can. Even Mexico has some dealings with BRICS. All right. BRICS standing for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. All right. Let's see. Where it enjoys strong ties with Arab nations and Iran. Last year, Beijing brokered a breakthrough peace deal between long-standing regional foes Saudi Arabia and Iran. All right, you see that? So, and you know, Iran's been in the news here lately. We've talked about Iran for the past couple weeks on here. All right. But yeah, you can see the sides starting to form. Obviously, Iran is going to be on the BRICS side of the conflict. All right. U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken said he discussed with Chinese President Xi Jinping and other officials in Beijing on Friday how China can play a constructive role in global crises, including the Middle East. Right? Because them old Democrats, and it's not like the Republicans are much different, but the Democrats are more in the pocket of China than the Republicans are. All right, Republicans are more standoffish. Chinese officials have ramped up advocacy for the Palestinians in international forums in recent months, calling for a larger scale Israeli-Palestinian peace conference and a specific timetable to implement a two-state solution. All right, so that's not what the state of Israel wants. They don't want a two-state solution. Even if they say that on paper, that's not what they want. They want to take over the whole region. All right, but China may be trying to broker some sort of two-state solution here. In February, Beijing urged the International Court of Justice to give its opinion on the Israeli occupation of the Palestinian territories, which it said was illegal. All right, so the International Court says, look, everything that the state of Israel is doing over there is illegal. The way that they're, just stealing land from the West Bank and, carpet bombing Gaza, it's illegal. They're not supposed to be doing that. More recently, China has pushed for Palestine to join the United Nations, which Beijing's top diplomat Wang Yi said last week would rectify a prolonged historical injustice. So that tells you which side China is on. They're not for the state of Israel and what the state of Israel has done. All right. And you can say the same thing for BRICS. They're all going to be on the side of China. But this is what it's all leading to. I'm not even going to tiptoe around it. This is what it's all leading to. Joel 3. And I'll read a little further down this week in Joel 3 than we usually do, just to bring back to remembrance what this is all about. All right. This is Joel 3, starting with verse 1. For behold, in those days and in that time, this is talking about the last days, when I shall bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem, meaning bring the Israelites out of captivity, specifically Judah and Jerusalem, the Judites, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, I will also gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat, and will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and pardoned my land. So God said, look, I'm going to bring all nations down there to the valley of Jehoshaphat. We've talked about the valley of Jehoshaphat last week, the valley of Megiddo. All right. I'll point it out because, I like showing y'all where stuff is geographically. All right. So let's check this out real quick. Here it is. This shows very plainly where the valley of Megiddo is. Here we go. The plain of Megiddo, it calls it right here. Valley of Jezreel is another thing that it's called, but it's the same thing. It's right here. Let me undo that real quick. It's north of this mountain range right here, Valley of Jezreel, as you see. It's the north of the West Bank. That's where God's going to bring everybody to conflict. All right. As you can see right there, you go south of Carmel, you get it. You got this mountain range that goes right there, and that plain just north of these mountains right here. That's where the valley of there's the valley of Jezreel, same as the valley of Jehoshaphat, the plain of Megiddo, Armageddon, said in the Greek. All right, it's the same thing. All right, it's a place. Armageddon is a place. All right. I will also gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat and will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel. It's all for God's people, all for the 12 tribes, all right, whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land. All right, and as you can see, the land is parted. All the borders being drawn, all the they parted Jerusalem like right down the middle. Split it between the Palestinians and the Israelis, all right? Whom they have scattered among the nations, right? God's people are scattered among the nations. That's not God's people in the land right now, all right? There's a remnant here and there because we're in all nations, all right? And they have cast lots for my people. That's the auction blocks, all right? And have given a boy for a harlot, a breeder, what they call mandingos, and sold a girl for wine that they might drink, right? And they would rape the women and the young girls. That's what they would do in slavery, all right? Yea, and what have ye to do with me, O Tyre and Zidon? That's Africans, and all the coast of Palestine. That's the Arabs in Palestine right now, all right? Will ye render me a recompense? And if ye recompense me, swiftly and speedily will I return your recompense upon your own head. Right? So God said, what you got against me, you Africans and Arabs? What you got against me? If you try to get back at me, I'm going to judge you swiftly and speedily. Because ye have taken my silver and my gold, and have carried into your temples my goodly pleasant things. He said, you've stolen from me. You Africans and Arabs, you've stolen from me. Listen what he said here. The children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem have ye sold unto the Grecians. And if you do your research on what actually happened in the slave trade, you had Africans and Arabs selling, the Bible calls them Judites, and the children of Jerusalem to the Europeans. That's what happened. All right? That was Israelites on them slave ships. That was not Africans sold their own people. That's not what happened. Africans sold the Israelites out of Africa. The Bible's telling you straight up. that ye might remove them far from their borders, so you could keep them out of the land of Israel. Because even if, even the Israelites who are in Africa, they still retain some of their culture, some of their heritage. They still retain the idea, hey, we're Jews, we're just here in Africa for the time being. We can go back home whenever we want to go back for the feast. Whenever we want to move back, we can move back. But no, the Africans and the Arabs said, no, we selling you to the Europeans. The Europeans are going to take you off somewhere. That's what happened. All right, that's the truth. That's history. It was Bible prophecy. Now it's history. All right. Behold, I will raise them out of the place whither ye have sold them. So God's going to deliver his people and will return your recompense upon your old head. There you go. And upon your own head. Right. And then it talks about the other nations going into servitude and slavery in the kingdom. All right. We talked about that last week. All right. But all this Bible prophecy, all that is history now was at one point Bible prophecy. All right. But I ain't lost the thought about China getting involved in stuff over there. All right. Let's go to Psalms 83. We'll deal with that real quick. Psalms 83. Psalms 83. Because this is God's enemies right here in Psalms 83. All right. I'm going to start with verse 1. It says, keep not thou silence, O God. Hold not thy peace and be not still, O God. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. Right? So there's a ruckus amongst the people that hate God. All right? They have taken crafty counsel against thy people and consulted against thy hidden ones. All right? We are hidden ones, the 12 tribes of Israel, so-called blacks, Latinos, and American Indians here in the West and dispersed around the world. We are the hidden ones because we don't realize who we are. The 12 tribes don't know who they are anymore. All right? Even the world said, oh, that's lost tribes. The tribe's lost, yeah, mentally. We don't know who our God is anymore. We don't know who we are anymore. We're lost. The people's still here. We just confused because of that crafty counsel. And consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, come, let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. And that's how they did that. They said, look, you can't call yourself an Israelite no more. We're going to strip away your name. We're going to strip away your heritage. You got to do what we tell you to do. All right. For they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee. And it's about to go into it. All right. The tabernacles of Edom from that last chapter, that was the Grecians in the last chapter. All right. So-called white folk, Caucasian, European, whatever you want to call them. All right. That's Edom. And the Ishmaelites, that's the Arabs. The last chapter, call it Palestine. All right. It's the same thing. Arabs. That's who it is. Ishmaelites. And of Moab, that is your Chinese. That's the three biggest enemies of God. The three biggest haters of God and his people. So-called white people, so-called Arabs, and so-called Chinese. That's the three main ones. That's the three main ones that's going to be in World War III. That's the three main ones. Is America and the state of Israel. That's your Edomites. The Ishmaelites is your Palestinians, your Iranians, your all that Saudi Arabians. And the Moab is the Chinese. That's the three main ones that's going to be in it. And the Hagarenes. The Hagarenes are the people of Hagar, the Egyptian, all right, and African, just so you can understand. The Hagarenes are Africans, all right. Gibal is more Africans, all right. What the other chapter we just read called Tyre and Zidon. All right. And Ammon, that's your Japanese. And Amalek, that's your Jewish people. That's your Israelis. Is Amalek. That's who they really are. All right. Amalek is a descendant of Edom. Always wanted to act like they was different than Edom. You still Edomites. All right. That's Amalek. The Philistines, that's more Africans with the inhabitants of Tyre. That's more Africans. All right. So when you talk about, you hear some dumb people say Africans sold other Africans. No. Africans sold Israelites. And God still remembers what them Africans did and who they are. All right? So I'll finish this out in verse 8 where it says, Ashur also is joined with them. That's the Kurds. They have hope in the children of Lot. They help the Moabites and the Ammonites. That's the children of Lot. Salah. All right? So from there, I'm going to go to Isaiah 9 just to reiterate what we just read in Joel 3, how God's gathering all nations to that valley of Jehoshaphat. All right, this is Isaiah 9. I'm going to start with verse 5. Start with verse 5. For every battle of the warrior is with confused noise and garments rolled in blood. That's what you see in warfare. I've described it many times what this is talking about. That's what you see in warfare. All right, even on up to today. In ancient times, you had swords clanking, people yelling, garments rolled with blood. Obviously, you get stabbed or you get shot with an arrow, you start bleeding. It's the same thing with, like, say, the Vietnam War, with people that was, or even like World War II, people shooting with guns. You hear the gunfire, you get hit with a bullet, you start bleeding. All right, confused noise and garments rolled in blood. But this, meaning this final war, this World War III, shall be with burning and fuel of fire. It will be a nuclear war. All right, it's going to wipe out most of the people on the planet. Why do you think it's billions of people now? Cannon fodder, so you can understand. Sheep for the slaughter, so you can understand. It's just going to be bodies on bodies on bodies. All right. Lot of dead people. All right, lot of dead people. That's what you read in Isaiah 66. When talking about the slain of the Lord shall be many. All right. Same when Christ said, many shall be called, but few are chosen. Only few gonna make it through. Many's gonna die. All right. This shall be with burning and fuel of fire. And what comes after? What comes after this burning and fuel of fire? For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulders. So our Messiah's government, that's what comes after this burning, after this war that is of fire. All right, is our Messiah's government. And his name shall be called Wonderful, Counselor, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. What other man you know is called the Mighty God other than Jesus Christ? All right, that's what it's talking about. Of the increase of his government and peace there shall be no end upon the throne of David and upon his kingdom, to order it and to establish it with judgment and with justice from henceforth, even forever. The zeal of the Lord of hosts will perform this. All right. So it's telling you right there, after this World War III, it's going to be Christ's government established in order. All right. Not a whole bunch of reckless and carelessness. All right. It's going to be in order. It's going to be with judgment and with justice. And it's going to last forever. Nobody's going to be able to stop Christ's government. All right. Nobody's going to be able to tear it down. It's not going to be, a kingdom where, now the king dies and now everything's in disarray. No, Christ will never die. All right. He did that once. He defeated death. All right. So his kingdom, it will be no end. All right. So let's get to the main story of what I wanted to talk about. Let's get to this one right here. We got another black man killed by police. Said he can't breathe. All right. It says right here, I can't breathe. Black man in Ohio tells police before he died. Video shows. All right. Ohio police released a video of a black man who died at a local hospital after repeatedly telling officers, I can't breathe, as they pinned him to the floor of a bar and handcuffed him, invoking memories of the killing of George Floyd in 2020. And that's probably why he used those words, if I'm being honest. He realized what kind of situation he was in, started using the same words that George Floyd said, hoping it would grant him some mercy. It didn't, though. In body camera video released on Thursday by the Canton Police Department, officers are seen apprehending the man identified as Frank Tyson, age 53, who was suspected of leaving the scene of a single car accident on April 18th. So he didn't run into somebody. He didn't hit somebody. He didn't run nobody over. And we're about to read what actually happened, but it was just his car that was damaged, and he run. And so they chased him down and killed him. The Canton Police Department was not immediately available for comment on the video, which was posted online by several local media outlets, or to confirm details about the incident. All right, so the police didn't comment on it. All right, people have asked them to comment on it. They haven't said anything. All right. The 36-minute clip begins with a patrol officer coming upon a car that had struck an electrical pole and a bystander telling him that the driver of the vehicle had fled into a nearby tavern. So this is just speculation on my part, but what probably happened is this guy, he could have been inebriated, I don't know. He could have been inebriated, but he run into an electrical pole. Like I said, he could have been inebriated. Also, it could be that he didn't have insurance, so he fled the scene. He didn't want to be caught, possibly inebriated, and without insurance. He didn't want to go to jail. Understandable. I wouldn't want to go to jail either. But of course, I wouldn't do this, and we'll get into that a little later. Officers are then seen entering the establishment, where they find Tyson standing at the bar. An altercation ensued as they attempted to grab his arms, and he repeatedly shouts, "They are trying to kill me," and call the sheriff. Right. So Tyson, it doesn't say what he was doing at the bar. He could have been having another drink. He could have been, asking for some help, for somebody call an ambulance or whatever. I'm not sure. I don't have those details. But it also said an altercation ensued, so keep that in mind. All right. They didn't just run in and shoot him. They tried to apprehend him, and he resisted. Officers wrestled Tyson to the ground and handcuffed him. Right. So that should have been the end of it there. Right. You wrestle him to the ground, handcuffed him. Your job is done as a police officer. You're supposed to grab him at that point, or either, put him somewhere where, he can't run away, or, put him in the back of your vehicle. That's what you're supposed to do in that moment. But obviously, that's not what happened. One of them is seen placing a knee on his back near his neck for about 30 seconds, right? And everybody's seen the video of what happened to George Floyd. You would think after Derek Chauvin got convicted and arrested for the murder of George Floyd, you would think police officers would stop using this technique, because everyone has deemed it as excessive. But obviously, the police officers in Canton didn't get the memo. Tyson can be heard repeatedly saying, "I can't breathe. I can't get off my neck," as an officer yells, "Calm down and you're fine," before standing up. All right. So as you can see, he interrupted his expression here, the "I can't breathe," with a "get off my neck," right? Because he was probably saying the "I can't breathe" thing to call to remembrance the whole George Floyd situation, to show the similarities. But in that moment, you can't really, you're not thinking about reciting things. He just snapped back when, "Get off my neck," because that's kind of reflex at that point to say something like, "Hey, like, what the hell are you doing? Like, stop, you're going to kill me," type situation. And they say, "No, you're fine. Calm down." The video next shows Tyson lying motionless. Obviously, when you put the knee on someone's spine and you're putting all your weight on someone's spine, it's possible that can cause a fracture of the spine. That's why, people found Derek Chauvin liable. And obviously there's a whole racial component to it as well. But that's why people found him liable, because you put all your weight on your knee on someone's spine, you can break someone's neck, you can break someone's back, you can fracture that spine. All right. That could have been what happened here. I'm not quite sure. Probably is, because it said Tyson was found lying motionless, face down on the floor for about 6 minutes. It could have paralyzed him. That's like kind of the whole thing about it. It probably paralyzed him. While officers speak with bar patrons. And again, I wasn't there. I don't know. I haven't seen the autopsy, so I can't give definitive evidence of what happened. But that appears to be, based on this article, what did happen. All right. The officers then check on Tyson, who appears to be unresponsive. They can be heard saying, "Is he breathing? Does he have a pulse?" So they didn't even know if he was alive then. All right. 8 minutes after the officers handcuffed Tyson, they remove the cuffs and begin CPR. CPR doesn't help a broken spine. And I'm not saying that's what happened, but it very well could have. With a knee on the spine, that can easily happen, especially if you're putting all your weight on it. Paramedics then arrive at the scene and take Tyson out of the bar on a stretcher and into a waiting ambulance, the video shows. Tyson died at a local hospital, according to WKYC, an NBC affiliate in Cleveland. Reuters could not immediately confirm the report. The official cause of death has not been determined, right? Because, autopsy results and all that take time to come out, especially if, based on how connected the police department is with the coroner, all that kind of stuff. The incident is reminiscent of Floyd's deadly encounter with Minneapolis police 4 years ago. A cell phone video of Floyd's killing, which went viral, unleashed a wave of protests worldwide against police brutality and racism. Obviously, we know about that. It shows a white officer, Derek Chauvin, kneeling on Floyd's neck for more than 9 minutes as Floyd, who was black, begged for his life, repeating, "I can't breathe," before falling silent. Chauvin and 3 of his fellow officers was eventually convicted of manslaughter and other crimes. You see that right there? So I guess he wasn't convicted of murder. He was convicted of manslaughter. So, forgive me. The Canton Police Department officers involved in the Tyson incident were identified as Bo Schoenig, I don't know, and Camden Birch, WKYC reported. Both were placed on administrative leave, and the Ohio Bureau of Criminal Investigation is investigating the incident. The station reported calls to the OCI were not immediately returned, right? So they are looking into it. And obviously we know with the George Floyd case, the man, Derek Chauvin, did get convicted. He was not found innocent. He was found guilty. But this still is a curse. And I just want to start here in Deuteronomy 28 and verse, what verse do I want? 25 maybe? Yes, 25. The Lord shall cause thee to be smitten before thine enemies. That's what happened. He was killed by the enemy. By the enemies. Thou shalt go out one way against them and flee 7 ways before them, and shall be removed into all the kingdoms of the earth. Right? So the removed into all the kingdoms of the earth, that already happened. But he tried to flee one way, and if it was 7 people there, they would have fled 7 different ways. But since this was one individual, he died before the enemy. He tried to flee one way, and obviously that didn't work. All right? Just wanted to point out this is a curse. This is a curse. And why are these curses coming about? But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. All right, so all these curses are happening to the Israelites because we won't keep God's commandments. All right, point blank period. This other scripture in Leviticus 26 pretty much sums it up a little better than Deuteronomy 28, but I just want to point out that it is a curse. And Deuteronomy 28 and Leviticus 26 are very similar. They phrase things differently though. So in some cases, a situation may sound more akin to the plagues of Leviticus 26, or they may sound more akin to the curses of Deuteronomy 28. It's a case-by-case basis, all right? But just know that all of this has happened to all 12 tribes. All right, Leviticus 26 and verse 17. And I will set my face against you, and ye shall be slain before your enemies, killed before the enemy. They that hate you shall reign over you. See, you're not going to put your you're not going to put your knee on the back of someone's neck unless you hate them. There are other ways to, apprehend somebody. All right. But obviously that's not what they were trying to do. They hated him. They didn't care what happened to him. So it was only when they realized that he wasn't moving did they try to turn him over and try to, do some CPR. And ye shall flee when none pursueth you. Nobody was chasing him. He wasn't in a high-speed chase. He just run out the car. All right. Nobody was chasing him, but he still fled. Why? Because he was afraid. All right. He was afraid of what they would do to him. Now, I will say this because it said an altercation took place, right? An altercation took place, and that's what led to him ending up dying. If he would have stayed calm when the police come to get him, then perhaps he'd still be alive. So what are we to take from that? What are we to learn from that? All right, Romans 13. Check this out. I know I've read this on here before when talking about this situation. Romans 13. And even before I get to this, I will point this out because we've kind of seen this aspect of the curse start to roll back a little bit since the Derek Chauvin case of 2020. I guess the case happened in 2021, 2022, but you understand what I'm saying. Since the George Floyd Manslaughter is technically what it was ruled as. But I still want to read this in Zechariah 11:6, because this is what happened for so many times, and it may happen this time again. So this is Zechariah 11 and verse, I'm going to start with verse 4. Thus saith the Lord, my God, feed the flock of the slaughter. So that's what we're supposed to do. As God's people, as God's shepherds that he's sending out to teach the people, we're supposed to go feed the flock of the slaughter, the people that's being slaughtered. That's who we're supposed to bring the word to. All right? Whose possessors slay them, all right? Our owners kill us and hold themselves not guilty. So I wouldn't be surprised if this leads to a not guilty verdict. That's what happened for so many times up until the Derek Chauvin case. All right. And he wasn't even charged with murder. He was charged with manslaughter. All right. So I wouldn't be surprised if this also leads to a not guilty verdict. And they that sell them say, blessed be the Lord, for I am rich, and their own shepherds pity them not. Right. So the leaders of our people, they ain't doing anything to stop it. All right. They're not doing anything to stop this. All right, so I did want to point that out. This may lead to a guilty verdict, but more than likely not a murder conviction. I would be very surprised to see if this led to a murder conviction. Maybe it'll lead to a manslaughter case, because there has been a precedent set with, this is very similar to the George Floyd case. So maybe that precedent will lead to a manslaughter conviction at the very least. But this man got into an altercation with police officers. All right. Don't do that. All right. There's an old Chris Rock sketch when Chris Rock had a show about what you're supposed to do when pulled over by police. And that is shut up, listen to what they tell you to do, and you can survive the encounter, more than likely. All right. So Romans 13, I'm going to start with verse 1. Let every soul be subject unto the higher powers, meaning listen to the authorities. For there is no power but of God. God give them the power to rule over us, because we didn't serve God, so now we have to serve them. That's how that worked. All right? The powers that be are ordained of God. Understand that thing. The police have been ordained by God. Even if they're jerks, even if they're not nice guys, you still got to listen to what they tell you to do. Whosoever therefore resisted the power, resisted the ordinance of God. So the scriptures say, if you don't listen to the police, then you're out of order. All right? And you won't be justified in the eyes of God. All right? And they that resist shall receive to themselves damnation. You see that right there? You will get damnation from God if you don't listen to the police. And you see what happened to this man. What was his name? Tyson? His last name was Tyson. Mr. Tyson. You see what happened with Mr. Tyson? All right. I think it was Frank. I think it was Frank Tyson. Anyway, the point is, you see what happened to him. He got into an altercation with the police and he died. All right. So don't try to start things with the police. They'll kill you. It's better to just listen. All right. For rulers are not a terror to good works, but to the evil. You see that right there? So if you're doing everything you're supposed to do, the police won't have any problem with you. It's only when you have illegal firearms or illegal drugs or you're driving without a license you're a problem to them. If you're not a problem to the police, they won't start no problems with you. All right? But to the evil. Wilt thou then not be afraid of the power? Do that which is good, and thou shalt have praise of the same. So if you keep the commandments of God, nobody will have anything to say against you. You're not going to have any illegal drugs on you. If you keep the commandments of God, you're not going to be doing anything illegal. Because as you can see right here, this tells you to listen to all the laws of the land. For he is the minister of God to thee for good. All right, so the police, ultimately, I realize they serve capital, they serve the wealthy, They serve the heathen, they serve the wicked. I realize that, but ultimately they serve God because God put all these people in power. All right. But if thou do that which is evil, be afraid. So the only reason why this guy would be running from the police, running from his car once he struck a light pole, is if he's doing something he wasn't supposed to do. Normally, you don't see people who run into a light pole, get out and start running. Usually they'll get out and be frustrated a bit, like, dang, my car. And then, you have the police pull up and then you explain the situation. Yeah, I steered off the road. I swerved because a car was coming my way. Something, whatever the reason that you hit the light pole was. Oh, I had a blowout and I run off the road. And they might even try to help you out in this situation, depending on what the situation is. But only somebody who's doing something they're not supposed to do will just take off running in that case. All right? Now, I'm not saying they should have murdered the guy, but obviously there was some sin there. The wages of sin is death. All right? But if thou do that which is evil, be afraid, for he beareth not the sword in vain. All right? So understand something about the wicked, because you say, like, the police is wicked. And I've read this before when talking about these situations, but this is the same. If the same situations pop up, we got to go into the same scriptures. All right? This is Psalms 17, I believe it's verse 13 that I'm looking for. 17 and verse 13. Yes. So you may say, well, the police is wicked. Why I got to listen to the police? They wicked. This is Psalm 17 and verse 13. Arise, O Lord, disappoint him, cast him down. Deliver my soul from the wicked, which is thy sword. So the wicked are the sword of God. They're an instrument that God uses to punish those sinners of his people. That's all the wicked are. They're an instrument that God uses to punish the sinners of his people. That's all the wicked are. And people, especially, man, I know I love getting on BHIs. But, the BHIs and other people now, people that's in the world now, they hate Esau. They hate the white man, right? The white man's the devil, and they hate him so much. They hate him so much, right? But if you understood and you stop getting emotional about everything that's happened and you just understand the power of God, then the wicked ain't nothing. The wicked is just an instrument that God uses. Why would I be mad at an instrument? I'm not mad at a guitar that plays wicked music. I don't care about that. You know what I'm saying? I don't care about let's take it like an instrument of war. I'm not mad at a gun. I don't care about a gun. It's whoever's shooting the gun. You know what I'm saying? I don't care about a sword. It's whoever's swinging the sword that holds the power. I don't give a damn about the sword. A sword sitting on the shelf is nothing. All right? Deliver my soul from the wicked, which is thy sword. Right? So this is David, right? Yeah, this is David. So David understood that the only person that can deliver you from the wicked is God. So make sure you're on God's side and you won't have to worry about the wicked. All right? For he beareth not the sword in vain, for he is the minister of God. The police serve God. Ultimately, that's what minister means. It means servant. All right? A revenger to execute wrath upon him that doeth evil. So that's why God sends the police out to whatever missions they go on, is to persecute and punish the wicked. All right? That's the only reason why Esau and Ishmael and Moab sinned against us in the first place. That's the only reason why they were sent against us in the first place. And we read in Joel, that's the only reason why the Africans, the Arabs, and the Grecians were sent against us in the first place. All right? Is because we've been sinners. We've been doing evil. God said, okay, you don't want to serve me? You're going to have to serve them. All right? Understand that thing. All right? Verse 5, I'll read verse 5. Wherefore, ye must needs be subject, not only for wrath, but also for conscience sake. All right? So, you got to be subject. You got to be subject. You got to listen. You have to do what they tell you to do, not only for wrath, not only because you're afraid of God's judgment, but also for your conscience sake. All right? Make sure your conscience is right with God and doing everything that his ministers, that his servants tell you to do. All right? So first and foremost, I don't do drugs because God don't want me to. First and foremost, that's my conscience that bear me witness. All right? That's why I don't do drugs. I don't give a damn what the police say. Ultimately, I know I care about what God says. So that's why I listen to the police when they put their lights on and I pull over. All right? And they say, hey, give me license registration. I give it to them. I don't have to do that. What am I, because people be like sovereign citizen crap. Or am I under a crime? Am I convicted of a crime? And you just start arguing with the police for no reason. That's foolish. You're going to end up dying behind that. All right? I just give them the license and the insurance, license and registration, whatever they ask for. Because ultimately they were sent by God. All right? Even if I was just speeding, I was probably doing something I wasn't supposed to be doing. All right? And I had one case that happened here recently. I got pulled over. Here I'm thinking I was speeding. Turns out they just wanted to tell me that my light was out. I said, oh, thank you. I didn't even realize that. I got out of the car. I looked at my lights. I said, it sure is out, ain't it? I need to get that checked out. Thank you. So sometimes they pull you over and you just need to listen to them. Sometimes they pull you over and it's not even something you did wrong. It's something they're trying to inform you of. All right? So understand that thing. Don't get into altercations with police. You can end up like I believe that man's name was Frank Tyson. Died in Ohio. All right? And it's unfortunate. That is our brother. But understand, God got a reason why he do all things. All right? I want to read this here in 1 Samuel 2 and 6. Because God is almighty. God is all powerful. You ain't sneaking something past God. It's not the devil that's doing things. Y'all give the devil too much credit. All right? The devil's just here to tempt you. All right? The devil ain't killing these people. All right? That's God. This is 1 Samuel 2 and 6. The Lord killeth and maketh alive. He bringeth down to the grave and bringeth up. You see what I'm saying? So God can resurrect anybody. God can also kill anybody. Everybody that dies is in the hand of God. All right? God's the one to kill them. Every baby that is born, God's the one that gives them life. All right? God is almighty. He does all that. He holds the power of hell and death. He holds the keys to life and death. All right? So anything that happens, know that it's of God. All right? Anything like this that happens, it's of God. All right? And it's a situation that we can learn from. All right, so I'll close out with this scripture. This is Luke 13 and 3. Because you may be thinking, oh, you said there was some sin there. You saying that man was so wicked that God had to kill him? He's more wicked than everybody else? He's not more wicked than everybody else. Not that I know of, at least. I don't think that he's more wicked than everybody else. But understand this. I'm going to start with Luke 13 and verse 1. There were present at that season some that told him of the Galileans, whose blood Pilate had mingled with their sacrifices. Right? So Pilate come down, who was the governor of Judea at the time, came down and killed a bunch of people. The same way that this man, I believe his name Frank Tyson, Mr. Tyson, 53 years old, I'll call him Mr. Tyson. Far older than me, I'll call him Mr. Tyson. He didn't, at least in that interaction with the police, they didn't have to kill him. All right? They could have apprehended him without killing him, as far as I can tell, as far as I know. The same way Pilate didn't have to kill these people in Galilee, but he did. All right? And Jesus answering said unto them, suppose ye that these Galileans were sinners above all Galileans because they suffered such things? Do I think Mr. Tyson was a sinner above everybody else because he died by the hand of the wicked? I tell you, nay, but except you repent, ye shall all likewise perish. So Christ said, no. I don't think Mr. Tyson was more wicked than anybody else. But except you repent, you're going to die just like him. That man was just an example of what can happen to all of us if we don't repent. Or those 18 upon whom the tower in Siloam fell and slew them, think ye they that they were sinners above all men that dwell in Jerusalem? So it's the same when natural disasters happen. when nobody caused the death, but people still die. I tell you nay, but except you repent, ye shall all likewise perish, right? So they're not more wicked than anybody else either, all right? They're just an example to the rest of us that we got to repent, all right? The same thing with Mr. Tyson, man. Same thing with George Floyd. They're sinners just like the rest of us. We all got to repent. We all got to keep the commandments, or we're going to die as well, all right?